Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So today I wanted to actually talk about someone who is deeply precious. It's personal. And inshallah ta'ala, I'll pull this out in a bit, inshallah ta'ala. I have a scroll to kind of show you all a very personal connection to this man. But he's been brought up in the last few episodes. His name is Abdullah ibn Ja'far. May Allah be pleased with them both. Abdullah, the son of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. Now, if you have followed the story of Abdullah ibn Ja'far, he's very interesting in that he is the husband of Zainab bint Ali. So the famous Zainab, the sister of Hussein in Karbala, everything that comes with Zainab al-Kubra. And then after Zainab, he is also the husband of Kulthum bint Ali. May Allah be pleased with them all. And so he's married to two of the daughters of Ali. And as we said, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to like that his daughters would marry the sons of Ja'far. May Allah be pleased with them all. Abdullah, what makes him so special, subhanAllah, as I'm looking into his history in particular, is that his life actually intersects with so many of the significant events in Islamic history. And they are either deeply tragic, and mostly deeply tragic, or they give us another layer to, an event in Islamic history that we celebrate. First and foremost, just where he was born. So Abdullah was actually born in Africa. He was born in Habasha. He's born in Abyssinia. And if you look at the companions of the Prophet ﷺ who migrated to Abyssinia to escape the persecution in Mecca, you'll find that there are some Habasha babies, right? Abyssinian babies that then came back to Medina and they joined the community there afterwards, but they were born in Abyssinia. And that just, helps to remind us that these companions settled in Abyssinia for a very long time, right? Some of them stayed behind for a very long time. There are years that take place in Abyssinia. Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu obviously was the famous ambassador of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to An-Najashi radiallahu anhu in Abyssinia. He is the one who represents the Muslims so beautifully, so profoundly. The Prophet ﷺ loves him and adores him, and he is the one who's standing in front of An-Najashi and securing, through his eloquence, through his wisdom, a place for the Muslims in Abyssinia. So Abdullah was born to Ja'far, and his mother is Asma bint Umays, radiallahu ta'ala anha. So Ja'far, radiallahu anhu, and Asma bint Umays, radiallahu anha. So you can imagine, growing up in Abyssinia. And why am I in Abyssinia? Well, you're the child of persecuted refugees from Mecca. Your asl, your default is Meccawi. You are a Meccan child, but you're born in Abyssinia because of the persecution that your parents felt. And so he takes to the climate of Abyssinia. That's all that he knows. And then at some point, he's on a boat now, not going back to Mecca. He never has seen Mecca, but going to Al-Madinah Munawwara, the place that the companions have migrated to. And so he boards this boat as a child with his parents, Ja'far and Asma, may Allah be pleased with them. And he's on this boat going to Medina, crossing the very difficult waters to get to Al-Madinah. And when they arrive in Medina, meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're seeing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam run to your father, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam embracing your father, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, I don't know what I'm more happy about. Qudum Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the coming of Ja'far, being reunited with my cousin Ja'far, or the victory at Khaybar, because that's the time period that the arrival of the boats from Abyssinia to Medina took place. So you were born to persecuted migrants in Abyssinia from Mecca. I think about the Palestinian story, subhanAllah. Your parents are from there. This is why you were born here. You don't actually return to Mecca, but you go from Abyssinia to Medina. There you meet the center of your parents' life and the lives of the companions, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you're immediately brought in, and the Prophet ﷺ immediately pays attention to you because you're family to him. You're not just a follower of the Prophet ﷺ, you're family to him. Then your father goes to Jordan, right, in the Battle of Mu'tah. And your father becomes a martyr, one of the most famous shuhada of Mu'tah, where his arms are cut off in the field, the battlefield of Mu'tah. And here you are in Medina, not the place that your parents came from, nor the place that you were born, and your father has been martyred thousands of miles away in the Battle of Mu'tah. And the Prophet ﷺ is coming to your house while you're grieving. Your family is grieving. Your mother is crying. And the Prophet ﷺ is comforting you and holding you with tears in his eyes embracing you, to say that he loves you and that he will take care of you and that Allah Azza wa Jal will see you under his divine care and protection. Like, think about how the world is changing so quickly. So my life already intersects with the initial persecution of Mecca, the coming of the Muslims to Abyssinia, the hijrah to Medina, a very unique hijrah, and then a devastating, battle where my father is martyred in the most gruesome of ways and loses his arms, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And suddenly, what are people calling me? Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma would say to him, Marhaban ibn dhul janahayn. Welcome, greetings to the one who is the son of the man of two wings. Greeting to the son of the man of two wings. Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu is the man with two wings, because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that I saw Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu flying in Jannah. Flying in Jannah. So Allah Azza wa Jalla replaced the arms that were taken from him with two wings by which he can fly throughout Jannah. So now your father is dead and you are in Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ loves you and cares for you, and the companions love you and care for you. And then his mother, Asma bint Umays, marries Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And she is the one that gave birth to the half-brother of Abdullah ibn Ja'far, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, as they were going to Hajj, right? At the miqat, on their way to Hajj, the farewell Hajj with the Prophet ﷺ. So now your life intersects with the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ as well. And Abu Bakr passes away. Asma radiallahu ta'ala anha washes the body of Abu Bakr, and she marries Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the uncle of Abdullah ibn Ja'far, and soon to be as well the father-in-law of Abdullah ibn Ja'far, because Abdullah ibn Ja'far will marry both Zainab al-Kubra as well as Kulthum afterwards. So I know that's a lot of names, so just follow along with me once again. Abdullah was the son of Ja'far and Asma. Ja'far passes away and Asma marries Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr passes away and Asma marries Ali. Ali is his uncle, but also he will, as he grows up, marry the daughters of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu at separate times, Zainab al-Kubra, as well as Kulthum. Now, he was about 10 years old when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, so he was very aware. It's not like he was too young to remember all of this happening. He was very aware with the hijrah from Abyssinia to Medina. He was very aware with the martyrdom of his father. He was very aware with the death of the Prophet ﷺ then, who you can imagine, the Prophet ﷺ stepping into their lives after the death of his father, Ja'far radiallahu anhu, was very difficult. And now your life intersects with Karbala as well, because Zainab was his wife and he lost his own sons. And subhanAllah, that entire episode of the painful martyrdom of Hussein and the captivity of Zainab, that's his wife. So now you intersect with that tragedy as well, the martyrdom of Al-Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu and some of your kids in Karbala, as well as the captivity of your wife in Karbala. She dies, and you marry Kulthum. Kulthum has a tragic death, as we covered. Kulthum dies, and you have to witness that tragedy. All right, what is your ending going to be like? So subhanAllah, this actually introduces to us the last layer that I'll mention of today's episode of Islamic history. In the year 80 after Hijrah, there was something called Sayl al-Jahaf, which means the flood that wiped out everything. What's interesting about this flood is that it actually was not a widespread flood, but it was a storm that hit a very small area. And it happened 80 years after Hijrah, on the days of Hajj, while the Hujjaj were setting up for Arafah on Yom al-Tarwiyah. So the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, on the 80th year, in the 80th year after Hijrah, the Hujjaj are preparing themselves for the next day of Arafah, and the storm comes upon the valley, and it was such a vicious storm that it wiped out the Hujjaj that year as well as their belongings. So many of those that went to Hajj that year, not all of them, but many of them died in that flood. One of them was Abdullah ibn Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. So you think, like, subhanAllah, his history, the persecution in Mecca, being born in Abyssinia, making hijrah on a boat from Abyssinia to Medina, his father dying in a faraway land in Jordan, the Prophet ﷺ dying in Medina, witnessing that, his wife going to Karbala, all of these things happening, and then his next wife dying a very tragic death in Kulthum. And then now you yourself pass away in Hajj, preparing yourself for Arafah in the 80th year. after Hijrah. So he's truly a remarkable man. And subhanAllah, the reason why I mentioned it's very personal. Some of you have heard me talk about my mother, may Allah have mercy on her, and this is very precious. This was the scroll that my mother, may Allah have mercy on her, used to hang over her bed. And my mother was a descendant of Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And they have a very beautiful tradition, subhanAllah, as the descendants of Ja'far, which there's so much tragedy and istishhad and martyrdom in that family, subhanAllah, that you can even see it at the top. But they have a history of passing down the scrolls, where if you look up at the top, you'll see Dhul Janahain, the possessor of two wings, being Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And then right under Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu, you see Abdullah. And then right under Abdullah ibn Ja'far, you see Ali. And you come all the way down to my grandfather, Munib Hashim, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was a mufti in Palestine and Nablus, and his family over there, which of course extends to my mother's family as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on them all. So this is very precious, because I used to grow up and I used to see this thing over the bed of my mother, and I didn't even ask her questions about it until I was a lot older and could understand what it actually was. And it stayed over her bed, rahimahullah, for years after she had passed away. And it's something that the family of Ja'far radiallahu ta'ala anhu and the descendants of Abdullah. So you can actually see Ibn Dhul Janahain, the son of the possessor of two wings. There's a visual to when Abdullah ibn Umar would call him that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them all. And again, it's a reminder that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses certain families for difficulty. And that was surely the case with the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they were chosen for certain difficulties, but that's because they were promised certain rewards as well. So may Allah be pleased with him, and may Allah azza wa jal be pleased with the family and the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.